Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have war. Starting off this list today, we have a prediction that comes from the ancient prophet Nostradamus himself. In his book of quatrain poems, in which he predicted, sometimes correctly, the future, he wrote, quote, "Under the opposite Babylonian climate, great will be without the outpouring." If you gave me the book of all the Nostradamus predictions with no descriptions as to what I was reading, I wouldn't be able to tell you one thing about it. The guy basically spoke in code, so thank God for all those people out there much smarter than I who can tell us what these all mean. Basically, this little prediction is meant to say that Nostradamus seems to believe that 2022 is when we will see the first climate war. He believes that this war will involve neighboring countries and it will be a fight over dwindling resources. Unfortunately, this prediction isn't one that is too far off base from the way things really are. In our number 9 spot today, we have the GLACIER. What would a list of predictions be without the wise words of Baba Vanga? The late clairvoyant and mystic had quite a few predictions for this year, so let's start off with just one. This prediction is in reference to a glacier which she says is going to melt this year, and let's be honest, that really is something that is extremely likely to happen. The thing though is that the darkness of this prediction lies in what is inside this glacier. She claims that once the glacier melts, it is going to release a new sort of virus onto the world, and it's one she says that humans will not be able to handle well. I know, I'm with ya. The literal last thing the world needs right now is some strange virus no one has ever seen before to suddenly be unleashed. I mean, here I am in 2022 still working from home, so no thanks, Baba Vanga. This prediction can stay far, far away from this world. In our number 8 spot today, we have the big three. Back with another Baba Vanga prediction. This one is a little less daunting than the last, but it's also a little more unclear as to what exactly she meant by it. Apparently, she said that this year we will see 3 giants unite, as well as a strong dragon that will seize humanity. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea, but there are some people out there who have a few ideas. People are speculating that this prediction is said to be about some large countries that hold a lot of world power all teaming up together. For what exactly? Who's to say for sure? This could potentially be a disastrous prediction if it were to come true, but there's also potential for it to be something spectacular and peaceful. I don't know. I'm not so sure about this one, but I am definitely hopeful. In our number 7 spot today, we have food pills. On this list today, we have a couple predictions that come from W.L. George. He was an English author who, in 1922, gave a bunch of predictions of what he thought the world would be like today. Some of them are shockingly accurate, which is very cool to read about, and some of them have yet to come true, but honestly aren't very far off. Starting with his, today we have a prediction that reads, quote, "It is conceivable, though not certain, that in 2022 a complete meal may be taken in the shape of 4 pills. This is not entirely visionary. I am convinced that corned beef hash and pumpkin pie will still exist." What in the Willy Wonka was going on in the minds of people in 1922? I guess in some ways this does already exist, but I don't think in the way he was meaning. We definitely have little pills, or more so candy, that tastes like a meal, and then we have pills that can give you the vitamins and minerals that would be comparable to eating a meal, but do we have anything that combines the two? I'm not sure if it's a great idea or not, but it just seems like something we probably have the technology for. Is there a market for this? WL has me left with a lot more questions that you think the last 100 years would have answered. Honestly, just give us the Spy Kids microwave and we'll be set. How's that for a prediction? In our number 6 spot today, we have hunger. Alright, another Nostradamus riddle for us here today. He wrote, quote, "Of blood and hunger greater calamity, 7 times oppressed to the marine beach, monarch of hunger, place taken, captivity." That was more confusing than the Baba Vanga one we just talked about, so let's try and decipher this one. Basically, people have explained that this one suggests that Nostradamus was predicting that this year we would see a rise in world hunger, which is a result of an increase in armed conflicts. This one is just bad all around. Firstly, that's a prediction that there's gonna be more bad, more war, more weapons. That's certainly never great on its own. These two things being smashed together certainly makes sense, but it doesn't mean it isn't grim. Let's just hope this is one of those far-off predictions that we never see come to fruition. In our number 5 spot today, we have A Bug's Life. Alright, this is one prediction that definitely came to fruition a couple years ago, so here I am asking, what's stopping 2022 from unfortunately holding the same kind of fate? Baba Vanga has predicted that 2022 will see a locust problem of biblical proportions. Okay, she didn't say that exactly. That was a bit of an exaggeration, but she did say that she thinks there will be a big old locust problem coming this year. This is something that was seen in India. While it sounds like it would only be a disgusting issue, this one is actually a very large issue for a multitude of reasons. Locusts can eat more than their own body weight each day, and they reproduce very quickly. This means that they can easily devour crops and can be a major problem for food supplies. Honestly, aside from all the important major issues, I just hate bugs so much, so this one sounds like an absolute nightmare. Like, absolutely no thank you. In our number 4 spot today, we have Paris. For one last Nostradamus prediction for this list today, we have a super worrisome one. He apparently wrote, quote, "All around the great city will be soldiers lodged by fields and cities." This is said to mean that for 2022, he is predicting that Paris will be under siege. For what reasons? Well, that remains unclear. There are other ways to interpret this prediction, like perhaps it's more so stating that the city will just be kind of closed off for a while, but truly who knows? I wish the people who made these predictions were just a little more direct with them, but hey, who am I to critique Nostradamus? At the end of the day, the good news is that this is just a prediction, and Nostradamus has been wrong before. But it just puts people a little bit on edge to hear these scary thoughts. In our number 3 spot today, we have energy. Another prediction that comes to us from W.L. George is this one that reads, quote, "Coal will not be exhausted, but our reserves will be seriously depleted, and so will those of oil. One of the world dangers a century hence will be a shortage of fuel, but it is likely by that time a great deal of power will be obtained from tides, from the sun, probably from radium and other forms of radial energy, while it may also be that atomic energy will be harnessed." This is one prediction that certainly already has, in some ways, come to fruition, but there is still more that is yet to be addressed in this one. Talking about the depletion of natural resources is not only a reality, but it was definitely quite forward-thinking for 1922. We can of course already harness the power of the sun through solar energy. Although it's not the most widespread thing, many people are rerouting to this more green form of energy. I think the most astonishing thing is the idea of atomic energy, which is also something that is becoming more and more widespread as the years roll on. In our number 2 spot today, we have disasters. This is one prediction that comes from Baba Vanga, and if I didn't know any better, it's one that makes me feel almost as if she had information as to what our world today would look like. She predicted that 2022 would be a year where we see a rise in the amount of natural disasters, more specifically earthquakes and tsunamis. This is made a little more eerie by the fact that she is very well known for having an accurate prediction of the 2004 tsunami, so let's hope that one was just an eerie fluke. She claims that several Asian countries, as well as Australia, will be the hardest hit by these disasters. Nostradamus also has a natural disaster prediction for 2022, and he says that Japan is going to have an earthquake that is going to strike in the middle of the day. It is tough to say how accurate or inaccurate these predictions are, and considering the implications of them, it's definitely nerve-wracking to hear. In our number 1 spot today, we have Work Week. Another W.L. George prediction for you today. This one reads, quote, "Americans will be less enterprising and much more pleasure-loving. They will have rebelled against long hours. The chances are that in 2022, few people will work more than 7 hours a day, if as much. The effect of this, which I am sure sounds regrettable to many of my readers, will, in my opinion, be good." This is actually a really interesting one. Not only is it very cool and fascinating to see someone having predicted this kind of thing all the way back in 1922, which is before the Second World War, but it's actually a huge topic of conversation right now. There are many places around the world that are cutting back their work weeks to lesser days or lesser hours, and it's a really controversial thing. Some people are really on board, and some are worried about the future of this. Let's have some civil discussions about this in the comments and weigh some pros and cons, especially if you've experienced both sides of the coin. Is one really better? Could working less in turn make some people more productive? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have battle. This is a prediction made by Nostradamus that is said to occur in the spring. Basically, Nostradamus wrote, quote, "Blue head shall white head harm in such degree, as France's good to both shall e'er amount." I have absolutely no idea what those words in that order mean, but thankfully there are people who think that they do. People believe that this prediction is meant to mean that war will be reaching Europe in the spring of this year. That's a grim grim start to this list. It's not exactly clear what this means. Is this where he's predicting the start of World War III will be? More on that later, by the way. Or is this a prediction of some entirely separate war? Maybe it's not war at all and potentially some other kind of battle. All I know is that a prediction that vague has got to leave us with at least a few questions. I guess by spring we'll have answers as to what he meant, or perhaps we'll realize it just wasn't destined to be true. In our number 9 spot today, we have the alien invasion. Okay, this is probably one of the least likely things on this list to occur, but that doesn't mean it won't. I mean, I'm certainly no seer or clairvoyant, so who am I to say for sure? Baba Vanga has predicted that sometime soon there will be some sort of alien contact, but it's not the kind that I'm hoping for. I truly believe that if aliens exist, they're probably peaceful. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but I just think that that's true. This Baba Vanga prediction, however, completely suggests the opposite. She says that an asteroid will be sent by aliens to attack planet Earth. Okay, no thank you. That would be horrible. It would be so scary. They'd have technology we'd have never even seen before. My dreams of peaceful aliens would be crushed. We'd be at war with another planet. I just don't see any good in that. This is one prediction I am definitely hoping does not come true. In our number 8 spot today, we have inflation. This Nostradamus prediction is said to be about inflation. He wrote, quote, "No abbots, monks, no novices to learn. Honey shall cost far more than candle wax. So high the price of wheat that man is stirred, his fellow man to eat in his despair." Well, that certainly doesn't sound good. We can all take our pick of reasons as to why this prediction is potentially likely to come true. It is really that ending line that has me a little unnerved though. Is Nostradamus telling us to eat the rich? Or is he just telling us how bad things just might become? Many believe that this prediction is his way of explaining that inflation and increase in starvation may just lead to some sort of a rebellion. I mean, that isn't the most far off prediction I've ever heard, and if things do unfortunately go that way, I could definitely see something similar coming true, but maybe I'm just easily persuaded. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Dictator. This Nostradamus prediction is an interesting one for sure. According to those who interpret his prophecies, he is said to have predicted that in 2022, we will see the death of a dictator. Of course, he didn't predict exactly who this would be. If he did, that would be pretty insane. If he predicted who would be a dictator in 2022, I would be thoroughly impressed already. But since he didn't, of course, people want to speculate who this prediction could be about. I always find it so interesting to hear these kinds of predictions because I always wish I could know exactly what it is that leads them to it. This isn't like an outlandish prediction if it were to come true, but it would just be strange how they could accurately predict it so long ago. I don't know, I'm getting lost in the sauce here. Let's move on. In our number 6 spot today, we have World War III. This is a prediction that has been made many a time throughout the years, and it's one I think we can all agree on wishing it doesn't come true because the results would likely be catastrophic. It isn't quite clear what is said to cause the beginning or mark the beginning of World War III, but that is likely because, like I mentioned, it's been predicted tons and tons of times before. It is possible that maybe one of the predictions from part 1 could be the trigger, like the predicted climate war or perhaps the increase in world hunger we talked about. Either way, it's definitely a real possibility, although I'd like to call it unlikely. I think many people understand what exactly that would mean, and I don't think anyone is eager to jump into anything like that anytime soon, which I am very thankful for, that's for sure. In our number 5 spot today, we have immigration. This one kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, and it makes a lot of sense, especially if the prior prediction were to come true. Baba Vanga has predicted that because of an increase in war, especially a world war, that there will be more immigration as a result. It isn't quite clear exactly who is immigrating to where. The prediction is more so that just more of it is likely to go on. I wonder if this means that perhaps there will be an influx before the true beginning of the war, or if this is a more dire, scary sort of a situation. Either way, it's a scary thought. On the flip side of this prediction, there are people every year who have to leave their homes in search of a safer life somewhere else, and it's definitely a grim prediction to think about those numbers only getting higher. The good news though is that this is one prediction that is entirely dependent on other predictions coming true, and who do we know that has a 100% prediction rate, right? I'm no stats professor, but I just feel like the odds are good. In our number 4 spot today, we have asteroids. This is a prediction that came from trusty old Nostradamus, but if we're being honest, it's a prediction that pops up every year by someone, and it is the idea that this year is going to be the one where an asteroid impacts Earth. Nostradamus' words were, quote, "Fire do I see that from the sky shall fall." I'm not exactly sure if he means like a small meteor shower kind of thing, or if he's talking mass extinction, it's the apocalypse kind of thing, but either way, it's a little unnerving. Last year in 2021, we had a quote near miss with asteroid 2021 GW4, but it wasn't thought to be a huge deal either way because it is likely that it would have broken up in our atmosphere. Right now, it is said that the next near miss prediction is for around 2029, and that's from scientists. So at this point, I feel like we're probably safe, but who's to say for sure? Stranger things have happened, and space is a pretty terrifying place, so I wouldn't exactly be shocked. Maybe it's not an asteroid at all though. Maybe it's something to do with all the debris in our orbit. Or maybe it's all those satellites Elon Musk is putting into the sky. Or maybe it's nothing. Who knows? I guess only time will tell. In our number 3 spot today, we have the AI takeover. This is a prediction that comes from Nostradamus and is actually about our ever-increasing technological world. Technology in our world evolves rapidly, and it's tough to make predictions about what next year holds, but this prediction from Nostradamus reads, quote, "The moon in the full of night over the high mountain, the new sage with a lone brain sees it, by his disciples invited to be immortal, eyes to the south, hands in bosoms, bodies in the fire." Many people believe that this prediction made by Nostradamus is said to be about, quote, immortal disciples and the potentially negative consequences, which people are taking to mean artificial intelligence. AI is everywhere now, from smart speakers, text prediction, facial recognition, self-driving cars. It's not just that insanely human-looking robot with realistic facial expressions, although that does exist too. People for years have been predicting something negative coming in terms of all of this new AI technology, but perhaps the first to do it was Nostradamus himself. In our number 2 spot today, we have the explosion. This Nostradamus prediction is one that could certainly become a reality at any point, which is something that is pretty terrifying. In this day and age, the threat of nuclear attack, while not an imminent threat, is always kind of there, hanging out in the back of people's minds. It's not something most people think about every day, but it's just something that we know people possess the technology and the ability to do. You know, that's why this Nostradamus prediction is just a little eerie, as he claims a nuclear bomb will explode in 2022, and if this wasn't bad enough, it has some harsh implications. He is said to have predicted that this explosion will lead to changes in not only the climate, but also the Earth's position. I'm not exactly certain what he means by the Earth's position, but what I do know is that sounds terrible and terrifying. In our number 1 spot today, we have volcanoes. This is one prophecy that I think we already may be seeing come true. Baba Vanga predicted that this year we would see significant seismic and volcanic activity. Well, as of filming this video, the Tonga volcanic eruption just happened a few days ago, so it's looking like this prediction just might be an accurate one. Not only are the residents of Tonga working so hard to recover from the catastrophic effects the eruption had, but this eruption was the largest in the world in 3 decades. There was a giant shockwave that this eruption produced, but the tsunamis that followed were quite unusual. Not only were they detected in the Pacific, but they were also detected in the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Mediterranean, which is something that scientists will be studying for years to come. It is obvious that this isn't something that happens very often, so it's very interesting to see how the rest of the year will go and play out. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the orbit change. This is a Baba Vanga prediction that she originally had slated for next year in 2023, but who's to say that it couldn't be something that happened this year? She says that soon we will be seeing a little bit of a change in the orbit of the Earth. That prediction does seem kind of insane, but as it turns out, around every 100,000 years, this apparently happens naturally, so maybe this year or possibly the next is the time that this change is bound to occur. Apparently, with these changes comes a shift in the Earth's climate. Usually the smaller the change in orbit, the bigger the change in climate, and vice versa, so with a prediction calling for a slight shift in the Earth's orbit, we can reasonably deduce that if this prediction were to come true, we would see a larger change in the climate as well. It isn't quite clear exactly how the change would affect temperatures and disasters and that sort of thing though. In our number 9 spot today, we have Doomsday. This prediction comes from a set of Latin phrases that have been attributed to Saint Malachi in the 12th century. These phrases claim that the end of the world will come with the election of Peter from Rome, the 112th Pope after Pope Celestine II, who was elected in 1143. The last Pope, Pope Benedict XVI, was the 111th Pope in that line apparently, which means that the current Pope, Pope Francis, is the 112th. The good news is that this prediction says it's going to be a Pope Peter Peter's election that brings us into Doomsday. So if there are any Peters who become the frontrunner for Pope anytime soon, that's when we can all start worrying a bit. But for now at least, I think we're safe. I also wonder how people draw these conclusions. I want to know what led a saint in the 12th century to be like, yes, in hundreds and hundreds of years, Pope Peter will be the last. In our number 8 spot today we have energy. Baba Vanga has some thoughts and feelings when it comes to how we supply ourselves with energy, and she thinks in the near future we're going to see a change. She claims that we will soon find a new energy source, likely a controlled thermonuclear reaction. This is definitely an interesting prediction for a few reasons. Firstly, it was definitely before her time, and secondly, this is something that is entirely possible and we might be closer than we think. If we were able to find a way to get our energy from thermonuclear fusion, it would fix a lot of our energy problems. It is a huge if on whether or not we could actually get to a place where we could use it and have everything and everyone be safe, but if we did, it would really mean big things. In our number 7 spot today we have the argument. This is a prediction that isn't exactly ancient, as it comes from a science magazine from 1960. This prediction, or perhaps theory is a better way to put it, is based on the belief that only a finite number of humans will ever live and that we are getting close to that number. There are many researchers who have their own equations and formulas and ways of getting what they think the number will be, but there are a surprising amount of people who believe in this sort of, quote, doomsday argument. Maybe it's about the number of people the Earth can sustain, because of course that isn't an infinite amount, and a lot of things on this planet aren't renewable sources. I think that there are also people who aren't even thinking about that, and are just simply thinking about how far we can stretch humans and humankind, and at some point there's gotta be a dip. You can only keep growing for so long before something gives. Either way, whatever the reasoning behind it, people are thinking that our ever-growing population might be the cause for our imminent decline. In our number 6 spot today we have World Hunger Part 3. This is a prediction that actually sits in a direct contrast with one of the predictions that was made on Part 1, which is a great reminder of how these are just predictions that have just as much, if not more of a chance of not coming true than they do of being super accurate. Also, many of these predictions from long ago are kind of up to interpretation, choose your own adventure types. Although this prediction contradicts one from the first list, I wanted to include it because I hope it comes true. The prediction states that world hunger is gradually being overcome. World hunger is something that we have struggled with for many years, and while we technically have the resources available to end it, we simply just don't. So that really would be a Baba Vanga prediction that would be nice to see come true. In our number 5 spot today we have solar storms. We apparently might see some pretty intense and devastating solar storms this year. These storms were predicted by Nostradamus, but also have been in the news recently as the sun has been showing more and more activity. These solar storms could have a terrible effect on our Earth and mess with available resources, and could potentially even render some areas unlivable. Nostradamus said we will see rising water and the Earth falling under it. If this were to happen, we could potentially see mass migration and fighting over resources, which really makes sense when we look at some of his other predictions that were on part 1 and 2 of this series. Hopefully the sun just feels like acting calm, cool, and collected. In our number 4 spot today we have Venus. This Baba Vanga prediction is in terms of what she thinks will soon come true in the world of space travel and exploration. She believes that soon we will be launching a manned spacecraft to Venus. While there currently aren't any planned manned space missions to Venus because of the extreme atmosphere that exists on the planet, there are currently 2 missions that NASA announced earlier that are planned to head to Venus sometime in the next decade. Both the Da Vinci Plus mission and the Veritas mission will explore Venus and the atmosphere, as well as the geological history, in an attempt to learn how it formed, why it evolved so differently than Earth, and to see if the planet ever had an ocean. In our number 3 spot today we have the economy. This is a prediction that was made for the near future, but who's to say it couldn't be something we see this year? I mean, a little good news on the horizon wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Basically, this prediction may possibly go hand in hand with the world hunger one, because it is the idea that soon we will see an economic boom and be living in the midst of a thriving economy. Wouldn't that just be nice? Economies around the world have certainly taken a hit in the last few years, but that doesn't mean a bounce back isn't possible. Maybe something is gonna happen that's gonna change the infrastructure. Maybe it already has and we're in the midst of it and we just don't know. Either way, I don't know enough about the economy to accurately say how this could come to fruition, but what I do know is that I'm hoping this one comes true. and sooner rather than later. In our number 2 spot today we have the zombie apocalypse. This one comes from the list of Nostradamus predictions that he had, and it predicts a pretty grim situation. Apparently he wrote, quote, "few young people half dead to give a start," and people have taken this to mean that it's the beginning of the end. It's a zombie apocalypse. He wrote that it would start off with a Russian scientist and lead to total extinction. While I'm a huge Last of Us fan, I would prefer if we kept the zombies in the game instead of in real life. Maybe all the Doomsday preppers are right, but maybe this is just one prophecy that isn't meant to come true. At this point, only time will tell. In our number 1 spot today we have cloning. Baba Vanga made quite an interesting scientific prediction, and it's one that at first wasn't quite clear, as she predicted that soon we will find that any bodies could be manufactured. People believe that this is her predicting that soon we might see cloning become something that is more widespread and accepted. This is one that makes sense because we already have the science to clone living beings. It's just still something that freaks a lot of people out. So maybe if this prediction were to come true, we would see a lot more cloning happening, and I'm sure for unnecessary reasons, but the prediction also might possibly suggest that we were able to clone organs, which may be a really useful scientific advancement. This could potentially help many people who need different organ transplants, and could potentially eliminate the need for someone to pass in order for someone else to receive their organs. Or maybe this prediction isn't about cloning at all, and it's more about our ability to recreate human parts and organs. That also wouldn't be so bad.